Now then, let's get back to Kenya, where a week after the country's transport minister announced that the construction of a new terminal had been cancelled, and remember, this is something that cost over $500 million, the reasons for doing so are now becoming quite clear. Let's start with a bit of background here. On the 27th of March, the top civil servant in the transport ministry, Mr. Irungu Nyakera there, said, quote, "We didn't say we're cancelling, just that they're priority projects on the back of limited resources." He then went on to add that the new terminal is a necessity if Kenya is to be an air traffic hub in the region. 2 days later, the state-owned entity in charge of running airports weighed in. Its acting managing director argued that the current expansion of terminals to handle 10.5 million passengers a year is essentially more than sufficient, and we don't need to build another one to handle another 18.5 million passengers a year. Now, these contradictory messages aside, are there solid economic reasons to not build the new terminal altogether? That's a question I put to Gabriel Nagatu, the African Development Bank's director for East Africa.
This is an exercise in rational economic decision making, and we very much welcome and support the action of the government.
Although some would ask, if it's a rational decision to postpone it now, why do they have to be funded in the first place?
Well, AFDB didn't fund it per se. We were in discussion. We were in discussion with the government of Kenya at their request to come and look at the options for financing. So we've been in discussion with the Kenya Airport Authority, looking at their figures, running the simulations and the models, looking at the projected tourist numbers, the projected passenger numbers, projected income, and then running the various models. But we never at any point reached the point of either entering into an agreement. The idea was that we would serve as the lead arranger for this and get a syndication of different partners to come around the table to finance it. But it never got that far. Once it became apparent that this is perhaps not the best time to invest this kind of resources, the decision was made to look at the other option, which is to look at the possibility of financing a second runway at the same airport.
Okay, so just to be clear, the figure that's been bandied about a lot with regard to the Greenfield terminal is a $551 million loan. That has not been dispersed at all. How much would a second runway cost to build at JKIA?
Right now we are at the phase of at the design phase. We have just financed through a grant the design of the new second runway, and it's only based on the actual design that you are able to make a cost estimate. But industry average would be the type of runway that's anticipated, something around $150–200 million.
Right. So walk us through the economics of this. We're expanding the existing terminals at JKIA, Terminal 1A, Terminal 1B, and at the same time we want to build a second runway. Now, the argument that the Kenya Airports Authority has made is that given the expansions we're making on the terminals, we don't actually need a greenfield terminal right now. How do those numbers stack up?
Well, as I said, this is a rational economic decision, because you've got installed capacity today of about 7.5 million. And then with these existing terminals being upgraded, could even go higher. Now, with these kind of numbers and with this kind of capacity and the actual numbers of around 5.5–6.5 million, you still have a significant headroom that you can use. So the decision was, do we need a new swanky marble terminal that looks nice? And it's part of the big Kenya Vision 2030 project and all that. Do we need it today, or do we need a second runway? Because you realize JKIA has only one runway. Should something happen and that runway is closed today, that airport shuts down. Now, Kenya is trying to run a 24-hour economy on a 12-hour runway, because after midnight there's no flight into Nairobi, whereas all the other major cities are running their airports 24/7. So the decision was made that in order to make Kenya a transport hub, both for passengers and cargo, let's focus on a second runway.
My conversation there with the Regional Director for East Africa for the African Development Bank.